Kia ora, I'm Chelsea Daniels, and this is The Front Page, a daily podcast presented by the New Zealand Herald. New Zealand's Privacy Commissioner has issued new rules around the automated use of biometrics. Biometric processing is the use of tech, like facial recognition, to collect and process people's biometric information. The code comes into force on the 3rd of November 2025, or today, but agencies already using it have until the 3rd of August next year to align themselves with the new rules. Today on The Front Page, Privacy Commissioner Michael Webster is with us to take us through what all of this actually means and how we can protect ourselves. First off, Michael, you're probably asked this a lot, but what exactly is biometric information?
Well, I guess that the simplest way to describe it is each individual's physical and behavioural characteristics, personal information about them. And the ones I think most people will be familiar with are things like fingerprint scans, iris scanning, and of course, increasingly, we're seeing here in New Zealand, facial recognition technology, or FRT. Those are the sorts of biometric information processing that we have seen here in this country.
Right, so instead of something that only happens in a Tom Cruise movie, it's increasingly happening in real life. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. I guess two of the most common are there's a number of workplaces, for example, where there are sensitive areas, and some workplaces are now using fingerprint scanning for people to be able to enter those places. I think many people will be already familiar with the use of iris scanning to unlock IT programs or devices, that sort of thing. And of course, in New Zealand, we'll be familiar with the recent trial that Foodstuffs North Island did of the use of FRT to address some serious harm, retail crime issues that they were having.
Right, so what prompted the introduction of this new biometric code?
Well, we've been scanning both what's happening internationally and here in New Zealand, and increasingly businesses, other agencies are using technological developments to either improve their customer service or to deliver on their objectives. And so inevitably there's going to be, we think, a greater use of biometric technologies by organisations out there. And we wanted to make sure that both in the public and the private sector, that this country was ready for that coming wave of innovative uses of this sort of technology.
Right, so I'm walking around the supermarket and obviously all the cameras are catching me, what I'm picking up and how I'm walking and what I look like and everything. What can the supermarket then now do with that information now that there's a code in place?
Well, in the past, of course, you would have been watched by CCTV, which would have just been recording you, and then a person would have been looking at that to see what you were up to. Now, for example, if someone has threatened a staff member or engaged in assault at, for example, a supermarket or a hardware store, they might go onto what's called a watch list, a group of people who, for example, have been trespassed and are not allowed back in. And so when you come in again, what the biometric technology can do through the camera system is match your face with the face that's on the watch list. So that kind of, verification process there, identification process. And then the store, because there always needs to be human oversight, the store can then decide what to do about that, whether to call the police, to approach you directly. Those are the choices open to them.
Right, so if I go back in wearing a fake moustache and a wig, and will it pick me up? Is it that good?
Some models of facial recognition technology, some biometric technology is that good. It comes back to a question about at what level do you set the accuracy reading. And one of the discussions we've had with New Zealand organisations is ensuring that you don't leave yourself at the risk of misidentification or incorrectly accusing somebody of being on a watch list when they're not, because that is incredibly harmful and damaging and upsetting for individuals. And so you want to be able to set the match, criteria quite high, and you want to be able to use a very reliable and good biometric technology product, software, that sort of thing.
Unfortunately, even if you could make it through every other security measure, you won't beat the last one. That's because it's protected by gait analysis, the step beyond facial recognition. These cameras actually know how the agent walks, how he talks, how he moves, right down to his facial tics.
So what you're saying is no mask can beat it?
Right, so how does this code differ from privacy laws we already have in place?
Sure. So we already have here in New Zealand our own New Zealand Privacy Act, and biometric technology, biometric information, like all personal information, was already governed under the Privacy Act. And what this does, though, is, I guess, clarify and strengthen some of the requirements on organisations thinking about using this technology. So now, for example, they need to go through a deliberate process of considering whether they have privacy safeguards in place. For example, with facial recognition technology, the Foodstuffs North Island trial had a system of immediate deletion of non-matches. So they didn't build up this giant database of Kiwis' faces, if you see what I mean. They were immediately deleted. That would be a privacy safeguard. We expect under the code greater transparency. So if you go into a business that's using biometric technology, we would expect there to be very visible signage, whether it's from employees or customers, saying that it's in use. And we also want people to go through a very careful process of working out whether the proposed use is actually proportionate to the problem or the gain that you're looking to achieve. So will the privacy risks be outweighed by the benefits from using that technology? Is it basically necessary? Is it justified? Is it effective for what you want to use? Is it proportionate?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because the first thing that comes into my mind with this kind of technology is brands looking at customers and seeing who picks up their product, what their customer base would be. So would this code protect your biometric information from being used, say, via marketing?
So there's a couple of things there. One is, again, we should always remember that people have always been watched while they're in stores with CCTV. That has always been a feature, as well as the people in the store as well. One of the things that we've done with this code is that we've said there needs to be some particular limits on its use. And one of those limits is around what we would call inferential biometrics, such as, I guess, trying to read people's emotions or their mental state. So, for example, have they appeared to be more excited when they walk past a particular item of clothing than when they walk past something else? Those sorts of things. And we've said, actually, unless there are particular exceptions in place, we don't think biometric technology should be used for those purposes.
How does the code address particularly sensitive uses, I suppose, like profiling based on ethnicity or health even?
I guess there's a couple of issues there. The first is that there is always a risk with the use of biometric technology around bias and profiling. And that is why, for example, to come back to that earlier issue I talked about, you need to be able to set the match criteria at quite a high level. A lot of the biometric tools that have been developed overseas aren't representative or reflective of New Zealand's population. They're not very good at recognising people with darker skin types as well, for example. And so you need to be able to assure your customers, because at the end of the day, you want the trust and confidence of your customers. You need to be able to assure them that those that are matched accurately. And you also need to have pretty strict criteria if you're using it for, say, retail crime reasons around who ends up on a watch list and why they end up on a watch list. You've got to watch out for any human bias coming into how the systems are used.
How will compliance be monitored or even enforced, and what penalties might there be in place once the code is enacted?
So the code includes the same requirements and obligations on businesses and organisations that exist in the current Privacy Act. At the moment, for example, if you feel that your privacy rights have been intruded on, or you've been treated unfairly in terms of the management and protection of your personal information, what we say is that you should first approach the organisation concerned. And if you can't resolve your concerns with them, you can, and this is the same under the code as well, you can complain to our office. And if we feel that your complaint has merit in it, we will investigate further. We also have a compliance and enforcement team, and one of the roles that they carry out is just generally doing proactive scans across what's going on in New Zealand. One of the things about New Zealanders is that they're not shy these days about complaining. And so if we see, for example, that there's an uptick in media stories about a particular organisation and how it's using biometric technology, we have the right and the ability to go in and see what's going on.
What rights do individuals have regarding their biometric information?
Again, individuals have the same rights as they have under the Privacy Act. So, for example, you have the right for your information to be held securely. We don't want people building up databases of personal information and then that information being at risk from a cyber attack. And I guess the key point here is that if, for example, I had my driver's license stolen through a cyber attack, I can go and get a new driver's license, right? I can get a new driver's license number. That's okay. If I have my fingerprint stolen or my iris scan stolen or my face stolen through a cyber attack, that's not just information about me. That is me, if you know what I mean. And you can't replace that. It's gone. It's out there, probably being sold on the dark web. So individuals need to know and have the right to have their information looked after securely. Information that is held, you also have a right to access as well. You can ask organisations for the information they hold about you.
And you said that you looked internationally at what other countries have been doing around these kind of codes and this information. What kind of lessons did you guys learn, either good or bad, from what others are doing elsewhere?
Well, we're actually in a little bit of a catch-up mode here with this code. Other countries have for quite a while now treated biometric information as sensitive personal information because of its inherent nature that it is you, not just about you. And so they've already had their own rules and regulations in place. A number of the countries that we are particularly close with and compare ourselves with, if you think of Australia, the UK, Canada, those sorts of countries, they have been and are currently looking at how they regulate this information as well. So it's not just us. All around the world, privacy regulators are looking at the issue of the increasing use of this technology and ensuring that when it is used, that trust and confidence and people's privacy rights are not impacted by that.
It's funny you say that we're in catch-up mode, because when I read about this code, I thought, finally, New Zealand is getting ahead of the curve, because we're always talking about, especially on this podcast as well, when it comes to AI or anything tech really, how far behind we are, how far behind the laws are. For example, there are some laws that don't even really understand that a phone is in our pocket these days. You know what I mean? So it really does feel like, even for a layperson, that we are getting ahead of this. Yeah, are we that behind?
For a start, the Privacy Act itself is actually technology neutral. It's not kind of like, anti-technology and, at the end of the day, we want New Zealand to benefit from the use of innovative technologies. But what it's about is creating, I guess, guardrails for how that technology is used. Because that, at the end of the day, and doing privacy well, is going to be good for the individual, but it's also good for business. One of the things we're increasingly seeing in overseas surveys, and this reflects perhaps a younger, more digitally savvy group of people growing up, is that if people are unhappy about how their personal information is being managed by a company, by an organisation, they can quite easily pick up and leave. And so, and go somewhere else. And we see that happen increasingly in New Zealand as well. And so businesses are now becoming more and more aware of that. And so, as long as any new regulatory frameworks like this code are practical for them to use, that we provide as we have lots of guidance about how to do it well, they're, accepting of that as a way to help ensure that when they do use this new innovative technology, that it is, as I say, good for them as well as good for the individual.
Another thing we can do to protect, though, is never rely on a biometric as a single factor of authentication. It should be part of multi-factor authentication. So that way, even if my fingerprint does get compromised, well, I have more fingers, but even if that were the case, I'm still relying on more than just that alone. I'm relying on a password, something I know, or something I have, like a particular device. So with multi-factor authentication, we're reducing that risk surface by spreading out the different security mechanisms we're using.
And I know that businesses already using this biometric information in one way or another have until August next year. Is that just logistics-wise? Does it just take a while to, I guess, recalibrate the technology that they're using at the moment?
That's right. We wanted to ensure, again, from a practical point of view, that any business that is already using biometric technology had a period of time just to reassess their systems against the requirements in the code, to seek any further advice they needed to carry out, for example, an updated, what we call privacy impact assessment, to really look at the privacy safeguards they got in place, to think about whether they might want to add in some more, for example, to ensure that they are consistent with the expectations that are set out in the code.
And it's really incredible what biometric information we do carry. I mean, you mentioned the iris scan and the fingerprint. That's what people are kind of used to seeing. But you've also got things like the way someone walks, the way someone moves. That's, things that we may not think of. Did you ever think when you first became Privacy Commissioner or related into this space that you would be speaking about people's iris scans, fingerprints, and the way they walk, talk, and get excited when they see a product or something?
Yes, I did. And interestingly enough, we've been through quite a consultative process in developing this code. So we did start actually a little while ago now, a few years ago now, but increasingly both overseas, but you see this sort of information used. And you even, of course, can see it heralded in popular literature, particularly, say, for example, the sorts of sci-fi literature you've talked about. It is a reality. New Zealand wants to benefit from and use digital innovation, new technology. And part of my role is with our Technology Neutral Privacy Act and our regulatory framework is ensuring that new technology can be used in a way that is safely used and is protective of people's privacy rights as it can be.
Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Kia ora, thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Front Page. You can read more about today's stories and extensive news coverage at nzherald.co.nz. The Front Page is produced by Jane Yee and Richard Martin, who is also our editor. I'm Chelsea Daniels. Subscribe to The Front Page on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts, and tune in tomorrow for another look behind the headlines.